Okay, so I think I have figured out this. Is there three on? Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Sorry for the delay. I was supposed to post it on Sunday at 5 p.m. That got delayed. I will try to make sure that doesn't happen again. But as you know, it is answer key day. Yay! So let's get started on looking at the answer key for the worksheet. Also, warning. If you haven't done the worksheet, please exit out of this video. For your own safety. You have until this black screen goes away. Okay, I'm taking off the black screen. It's not really a black screen, it was a warning sign. Whatever! Moving on. Hey.
We don't want no heroes. So take your labels. We don't want no heroes. We don't want no heroes.
Hey guys, and welcome back. So, let's start by looking at the thing. Okay, so here's the format, and here's the equation. So, we have our squared, we have our x, and we have our c terms. So, it is true. Over here, we have just a b term. It is linear, but it is true because it just doesn't have an a term. We have a 3 exponent. That's not allowed. False. The next one, we have a 4 exponent. False. The next one, everything's good. We have a 2 exponent. It's true. Next one, we have a 3 and a base of 4. You'll learn that later. False. Okay, this contains a lot of stuff which we haven't learned yet. But this is false because it has an exponent to the power of 531. Yeah, 531. I'm pretty sure that's greater than 2. Okay, over here we have A, B, C. This is a perfect one, and it's true. Second to last one. We have a power of 43 and a base of 43. That one's definitely false. This one, no C term, but it is still true. This one, no A term, still true. Technically, some of these are linear. If they're missing an A, then it's linear, and you don't need to use the quadratic formula for it. And actually, I feel like if you use the quadratic formula for it, you're not going to get the right answer. So in this, we're using the quadratic formula. So when we move on to the next part where we solve it, we know in linear that this is 5 because -5 plus 5 is 0. But if we scroll down, oh no, don't tell me. Okay, do we ever solve that problem? No, I don't think no, we don't solve that. Now, if we were to solve that using the quadratic equation, see, let's take a problem like this, 6x equals 0. We know that the obvious answer is 0. But the thing is, when we plug in the problem, it's undefined because divide by 0 error. So some of these, when you use the quadratic formula, you're going to get the wrong answer in mathematics. But for the purpose of this video, I want you to use it, and I want you to get the wrong answer just to be familiar. So in this, we're going to classify it as a quadratic because in technicality, it's just can be solved linear. If you solve a linear, that is the real correct answer. So some of these answers may be wrong, but that's only because we're using the quadratic formula. If you're taking a math test, please do not use the quadratic formula for every problem you see. If the problem is a linear, then please solve it using your own linear ways. Okay, this part was fairly easy. 6x equals 0. Straight off the bat, 6 is 0. Since there's no A, there's no C, A and C are both 0. straight off the bat. Remember, this is linear. We're going to be solving using the quadratic equation, but it's not going to be the right answer. The correct answer, we obviously know, is 0. If you're taking a test and this is the problem, please write 0, not undefined, because they won't want you to use the quadratic equation for a simple problem, just for the purpose of this video. Okay, let's move on to 9x squared equals 0. So once again, pretty easy problem we have going on here. 9x squared. 9 is the term before the x squared, so 9 is going to be a. Since there's no b and c, there's 0. Moving on, 5x squared plus 6x minus 5. Finally, a perfect one we found. A is 5, b is 6, and c is negative 5. Next up, we have one without a c, which means c is 0, but a is 20 and b is 35. Then we have another missing c, which means that c is 0, b is negative 75.64, and a is 1 half. And then moving on to the next one, it literally says 0x squared, but I wrote that just so that it was easier. But if you're really contacting this problem, it will be written as 6x plus 5. Remember, if you're taking a test, solve 6x plus 5 as you would regularly. For the purpose of this video, we're not going to solve it regularly. But A is obviously 0, B is 6, and C is 5. I gave you this problem to show you what it would look like if they put it. Most of the time, most mathematicians or most people would write it as 6x plus 5. They would not put 0x squared. But I put that as to you to show the imaginary where we're getting that 0 from. Because it's still there, it's just 0. And since it's anyways going to equal 0, they don't include it in the problem. I just included it for you guys to see it easier. And then x squared plus 9. A is 1 because secretly there's a 1 before that x. There is not a 0. If there was a 0, they would not put the on there. B is 0 and C is 9. Now we move on to the hard part, which is actually using the quadratic equation. Let's begin. As we have identified the a, b, and c's, we can plug it in. So negative b, which is negative 6, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 36, minus 4 times a, which is 0, times c, which is 0, which means minus 0, which is just 0. And a is 0, which means 0 is on the bottom. Oh! Divide by 0? Let me type that into my calculator. Oh, look, error, divided by 0. Yeah, we have a divide by 0 error, which means the answer is undefined. But if you were to do it linear, the answer would be 0. Write 0 on your test. Okay, moving on to the next problem. Negative b, which is 0, plus or minus the square root of b squared. Now, the thing is, I said use the quadratic equation with the plus sign. So what I want you to do is, instead of writing plus or minus, my mistake, just plus the square root of b squared, which is 0, minus 4 times a times c. Since c is 0, we automatically know that it's plus the square root of 0 divided by 2a, which is 18. And 0 divided by 18 is 0, so our answer is going to be 0. Next problem. This is where we actually get a problem where it's not just undefined or 0. So let us begin. Negative 6 plus, only plus, because just for this one. As you can see in the first part we do plus, then we do minus, and then we do both at the end. So negative 6 plus the square root of b squared, 36, minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a, which is 10. Okay. I'm just gonna quickly do all of those calculations on my calculator, and I get negative 6 plus the square root of 136 divided by 10. And if I'm not mistaken, that is our final answer, which is hiding over here. Negative 6 plus square root of 136 divided by 10. This problem, negative 35 plus the square root of b squared, which is, oh god, 35 squared. 35 squared, which, okay, my stuff got erased. We were at this problem, if I'm not mistaken, negative 35 plus the square root of 35 squared, which is 1225, minus 4 times 20 times 0. So before you do the minus 4ac part, first check if a or c is 0, because if a or c is 0, it's going to be 0, so you don't even have to do anything. Then divided by 2a is 40, so if we plug the square root of 1225 in, it's going to be 35, and 35 plus negative 35 is 35 minus 35, which is 0, and 0 divided by 40 is 0. Next up, let's take a look at this next problem, 75.64. Since it's already negative, it's going to be positive, plus the square root of b squared, which, oh, that does not look like it's going to be a very clean number. Okay, this is a number way too big, but okay, it's 5,721.4096. I hope you have a good calculator because C is 0. So this is our answer. And if I'm not mistaken, the square root of that is 75.64. So here's a tip for you guys. If A or C is 0, then the thing inside the square root, sorry I'm taking so long, the thing inside the square root is going to be B, the positive version of B. Okay, if you didn't understand, that's just fine. In this problem, B was 35, and in the quadratic equation, it happened to be, oh no. Okay, in the quadratic equation, our end result was negative 35 plus 35. Why? Because A and C were 0. So what happened is, since A or C was 0, we just got 35 inside the square root, and on the outside it was negative 35. Just like over here, when A and C are 0, we got 75.64. And since on the outside it's also 75.64. So what I'm trying to get to is, if A or C is 0, or both of them are 0, the thing inside the square root is going to be the positive version of B. So that's a tip, and we'll probably be able to use that, but let's get back to the problem. 75.64 plus 75.64, since A and B are 0. And if we add those together, you really need a calculator for this. And then we divide it by 2a, and 2 times 1/2 is 1. So you're dividing it by 1, which means the answer is just 151.28, which is what we have over there. Okay, for our next problem, a is 0, and we already know the answer is undefined. Why? Because if a is 0, then that means 2a is 0. And as we know, the divide by 0 error stops us immediately. But if you were solving this linearly, like you should be doing in school on a test, the answer would be negative 5/6, because 6 over 1 times 5 over 6 is negative 5/6. I mean, it would be the answer, because that would be negative 5, and negative 5 plus 5 is 0, if you were solving it in school. But for the purposes of this video, since we're doing quadratics, it's going to be undefined. And for our last problem, we have I, something we didn't talk about much in the last video, but negative b is 0 plus, so we don't even need the plus. So basically all we're getting here is the square root of b squared. B squared is 36. And a, no, wait, what am I doing? I'm looking at the wrong problem. Oh my god, okay. The square root of b squared, which is 0, minus 4 times a times c. So negative 4 times 1 times 9 is negative 36. And what is the square root of negative 36? 6i. Okay, square root of negative 36 is 6i. Because the square root of 36 is 6. So, like I said in the previous video, when you're dealing with the negative, just pop I straight onto the back. Why? Because I, imaginary number in mathematics, means the square root of negative 1. So 6 times the square root of negative 1. If you type that into your calculator, 6 times the square root of negative 1, in your calculator it'll appear as error. In my calculator it appears as 6i. But that's a trick. Whenever you see a negative, solve it like it's positive and then just pop an I on to the end. Not an I, but an I letter. Okay, so now that we have 6i divided by 2a, since a is 1, 2 times 1 is 2, and then 6 divided by 2 is 3, which means that we get 3i. Moving on, now we were solving the minus versions of all of these problems. Now, some of these I don't even need to do any work. Why? Because we've already solved it. Let's take a look. Up here, it's undefined. The minus sign isn't going to change anything. A is still going to be 0. So the minus sign isn't going to change anything. It's still going to be undefined. For the second answer, I think we can do a little bit of stuff there. All we have is 9 to work with. So 0 minus. That's the difference. So we have minus square root of b squared. We have no b. So minus 4 times 9 times 0, which is 0. So it's still going to be the square root of 0, which means it's still going to be 0. Moving on to the next problem. Literally the only thing that changes here is negative 6 plus square root of 36 divided by 10 and negative 6 minus square root of 136 divided by 10. Since we didn't really take that out of the quadratic equation, since we couldn't simplify it anymore. Actually, now that I think of it, here, wait, we can't simplify it more. Okay, I fixed some stuff. The square root of 136, which just dawned on me, can be divided by 4, which is 34. And since 4 is a perfect square, the square root of 4 is 2, which means 2 goes outside. And as you know, 2 divided by 10. Okay, not divided by 10, but here, wait, I still have one more thing to fix. Okay. Now everything's fixed. Why? Because negative 6 plus or minus that divided by 10. And we can divide 10 by 2, which is 5. We divide that by 2, which is the square root of 34. And we divide 6 by 2, which is negative 3. So boom, we simplified that down even more, but that's the maximum we can simplify to. And the only thing we need to change is the plus and minus sign, which is why that was so easy to convert. But if we move on, this next one, previously it was 0, now it's negative 1.75. Let's find out how that happened. So up here, let us do this. 35 squared, oh, we do not like these problems. Negative 35 minus the square root. Oh, wait, is A, B? Is A? The C is 0, which means that it's just going to be 35. Now, in the previous problem, it was plus, which means that it's 0. In this problem, it's going to be different. So we're dividing by 40. And negative 35 minus 35 is negative 70 divided by 40. And if I put that in my calculator, I will get negative 1.75. Plus and minus can make a difference. Next, we had 151.28 in the first one, and apparently for the second one we have 0. That's another big difference. Let us dive into that. Okay, so it's this problem, 75.64 minus C0, which means that it's just going to be 75.64. Oh, the last problem was plus. And then that's just going to be 0, and 0 divided by whatever A is. 0 divided by anything is just going to be 0. So plus and minus can make a difference. We just saw in those two problems. Because in those last two problems, they came out with completely different answers. One side was 0, the other side was that. Because in both of those problems, C was 0, which means that it was basically the same thing. So the only thing that it came down to was they're both the same number. So sometimes when it was positive, this one will be negative. So you would get 0. But then when both of them are negative, you would get not 0. And then when both of them are positive, you would get not 0. And when one is negative, and when you're minusing by, you would get 0. So those are basically the properties which just occurred there. But moving on, if it's undefined, it's probably going to be undefined in subtraction because A is 0. So whatever you divide by 0 is just going to be 0. We don't even need to do any math there. And over here, it was just a matter of, I actually remember this problem. It was the square root of negative 36, if I'm not mistaken, divided by 2. I think that was the problem. I'm going to check. Okay, it was plus or minus, and in this case, we're minusing, and then divided by 2. I'm pretty sure that was the problem. And as we know, that's 3i, but it's minus 3i, or 6i, and then minus 6i divided by 2 is negative 3i. Okay, this is the part which I don't even like this part because I have to solve a whole lot of problems. This is not going to be easy on either of us, but let's go. Okay, I'm going to try to find the fastest way possible to break down these problems. Ooh, I think I found a mistake which I made. I made a mistake, I think. Divide by 0 error? Did I forget that? Yes, I clearly have forgotten the divide by 0 error. As you can notice, A is 0, which means you're dividing by 0. So, let me correct that. Okay, now that we fixed that, we can get back to work. Oh, that does not look pretty. Oh, good, you don't look pretty. Okay, first of all, negative b is 0. So we have plus or minus the square root of 0. How do I know that? Because b is 0 and c is 0, which means b squared is just going to be 0. And minus 4 times a times c is also going to be 0. So it's just going to be one big 0. So even if it's plus 0 or minus 0, either way, it's going to be 0 for the answer. Moving on to the next problem, because I'm trying to vroom and we have to do work. Negative 7.9 plus or minus the square root of, please wait as I type this into my calculator, minus 4 times a times c 392.39 divided by 2a, which is 7. Yes, it is 7, and that is all we can simplify it since it's already a decimal. Okay, moving on. Next problem. Negative b 701 plus or minus the square root of b squared. Wait, pause. What have I done? Guess what? What? C is 0, which means it's just going to be the exact same thing. Divided by 2a. What is 2a? Somebody, let me... And And then we divide by 2a, which means 2a. Oh, that looks ugly. 5, 4, 30 times 2 is 1086. So if it's minus, the answer is going to be 0. If it's plus, then it's going to be divided by 1086, which is going to be, oh no. Oh, it's going to be 1402 divided by 1086, which is what I have. I'm pretty sure my thing has started recording, but my taskbar hasn't showed up. Okay, so we just finished the problem here, and we're moving on to this problem. I will be needing the calculator. Negative 0.9 plus or minus the square root of b squared. Wait, is c 0? Oh, I don't have to do any of this. Negative 0.9 plus or minus 0.9 divided by 2 times a, which is, oh no, I do not like how that looks. 0.312. So if it's plus, then, so our answer is 0 or negative 1.8 divided by wait, my brain can't think. Oh god. Or negative 1.8 divided by 0.13. I think I didn't put the negative over there. Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Or negative 1.8 divided by 0.312. Next question is, it literally says 0x, so we know b is 0. So it's plus, is my thing, okay, plus or minus the square root of, what is it? 0 minus 4 times a times c. Okay, that gets us to 31.28. Oh, that did not look like a clean 28. And then divided by 2a, which is 46. And I think that's it. So it's just plus or minus 31.28 divided by 46. Okay, we are cranking these problems. Moving on to the next one. Negative 89.63 plus or minus 89.63, because c is 0. We don't have to do anything. Okay. So for this one, it's either 0 or 89.630 times 2. Negative 179.26 divided by 2a, which is 26.5. So as you can see, all of these answers match. So 26.5, all of these should be correct. If any of these answers are wrong, feel free to put it in the comment section and I will correct that ASAP. Moving on to the next one. This one, oh no, did I do it wrong? I think I forgot to divide by 0. Yes, I forgot to divide by 0. A is 0. Okay, I'll fix it. Okay, I fixed the previous problem. Moving on. In this problem, b is 0. So we have plus, what have I done? We have plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is 0, minus 4 times a times z, which is 0. So I have the square root of 0 divided by 2a, but we already know that our answer is 0. This video was long. This video, I hope you learned something, and also there's really no point of just watching this answer key and then just writing it down on the worksheet. There's like a Zero point of doing that because this isn't even going to be graded. So I'm not even grading it. This is for your own learning if you want to learn. So really, I don't care if you look at the answer key. If you do before you complete the worksheet, then you're really not doing anything. You're literally just writing numbers on a piece of paper. So I hope you learned something and be ready for our video on Friday about discriminants.